Okay, hey. Hey everyone, Kenny G here. and welcome to the virtual conversation I'm going to have with the infamous Richard Marx about his new memoir, Stories to Tell. Available in all places, but especially we want to thank the people at Barnes & Noble for being so supportive. So, without further ado, my good friend, Richard Marx.
Hey, Kenny G.
Hey, bro, what's going on?
How are you, buddy?
I'm good. I'm
This
good.
is so cool that you would do this, and it's so 2021 of us to be here doing this with me in Montreux, Switzerland, and you in an undisclosed location.
I'm in Seattle. It's okay. I'm in
Yes.
Seattle.
How are you? I actually, what's really cool is that we just saw each other, what, a week ago for July 4th?
Yeah, we had a little backyard barbecue. You know, we're friends, folks. So we've been friends for
Yes.
30 plus years,
30 years, at least 30 years.
at least 30 years.
I met
And
you when I was 12.
well, you are younger than me. I did my intro all wrong. I wanted to say not just the infamous Richard Marx. I wanted to say the guy with the second best hair in the business. I forgot that part.
It's a major competition we have, but I love when people find out that you and I are pals because I don't know why people would are surprised by it, but there are my two best friends who are surprises to people are you and Fee Waybill from the Tubes.
Hmm.
Because I guess I don't know why people are like, really? You're like Kenny G is one of your best friends? Like Kenny G is one of my best friends. Like
And why was he left out of the book? That's the big question that everyone's going to ask.
that's the first good question. And I was thinking that when you were going to chat with me about this, there are obviously other friends of mine in my book,
I know.
stories to tell,
Yeah, stories to
available at Barnes and Noble right now, um, who are not represented in the book, and it's for the same reason. Either we haven't really worked on something together that has a backstory. The only thing we've really worked on together was you were gracious enough to invite me to sing a track on an album of yours about 10 years ago or something like that.
Yeah, that
Where
was
I did Sorry Seems to Be the Hardest Word. You did an album of covers.
yes, I can't remember the name of the album at this point, but yeah, you know what? By the way, I'm yeah, I'm not upset at all. I
I
didn't.
know you.
I wouldn't have even expected to be in it because the thing is, you and I have no controversy of any source. There's no like big drama. We just love being around each other. When we play together, it's fun, and when we dabble and do a thing here or there, it's always been good. But the people that you have worked with in your book that you talk about, I have to admit, when I read, I was pleasantly not. I was reminded because we've talked about it before, but then it was also like a surprise because at my age, I'm starting to forget a lot of stuff. But the fact that Lionel Richie calls you out of the blue, what are you, 18 years old? I mean, come on, that's a
Yeah.
story that I think, without giving away too much, I think you should share that. That's a really interesting thing.
Yes, and I'll tell you this, one of the best parts about the experience of writing this book and promoting it this last week and change or the last couple of weeks um, has been the opportunity it's given me to write about and talk about Lionel Richie
Oh,
because he changed my life
yeah.
and he changed the trajectory of my life. He certainly changed the trajectory of my career, which was non-existent when he called me. Essentially, I grew up in Chicago. I had been doing some recording with my parents. My parents were in the jingle business. My father wrote and arranged and produced famous commercials, jingles, and my mom sang on them. But ever
Cute.
since I was a little kid, it was clear that I could sing in tune. And so my father was like, look, when I've got to use a kid, why wouldn't I use my own son, right? So I had pretty good experience in the studio as a singer, but I really wanted to be an artist. And I really wanted to be a songwriter. So I wrote a handful of songs.
Hmm.
And as I was starting my senior year of high school, a friend of mine who was really my best friend, actually, he was a year older than me. So he was starting college and he had my demo tape, a cassette,
Cassette. I remember
and he
those.
would play it in his dorm like he would play REO Speedwagon or Queen or whoever. He would like throw on the Richard Marx demo tape, and his friends would be like, "Who is that?" And he'd go, "This is my friend from Chicago." Oh wow, he's pretty good. yeah, he's just started writing songs, you know. And one of his friends said, I know a guy who knows a guy who knows a guy who works with the Commodores, which was Lionel's group.
Yeah.
And I don't know, 3 months, 4 months later, my parents' phone rang, and it was Lionel Richie calling for me. He had gotten this cassette. My phone number was written on the back, and he called the number. First of all, he listened to it, and second, he called me on the phone.
Wow.
And talked to me for half an hour, and was so incredibly supportive and encouraging. And a year, less than a year later, after I graduated from high school, I abandoned any plan to go to college, and I moved to LA. And then I ended up going by the studio to meet him in person, and he ended up having me sing background vocals on his first album, his first solo album.
Yeah.
Now think about what that took, because in 1982, I guess was the year that was, or 81, Lionel Richie was arguably, maybe next to Michael Jackson, the biggest star in the world.
Oh yeah.
And he called this kid in Chicago he didn't know for no reason other than to just be gracious. And so I've had countless experiences with him. I mean, not just singing background vocals on a Lionel Richie record, and him saying to me, you can hang out at the studio anytime I'm here. You can learn about making records. You can learn about production and arranging and how I deal with the musicians and the engineers and all that stuff. And it was, again, so gracious and giving and mentoring. And then on top of that, he recommends me to Kenny Rogers, his buddy, who I end up getting a session with him, and then that turned into me writing songs for Kenny Rogers, which launched my songwriting career.
That took a lot of guts, though, for you to give, like, okay, you're in the studio doing background vocals for Kenny Rogers,
yeah,
and at the same time, you hear that he needs some more songs for his record,
yeah,
and so you go home and go, you know what, I'm going to write a song, and when I come back tomorrow, see, this is the kind of stuff I would do.
It totally reminds me of you.
Yeah, because it's people would say, oh, that'll never happen. Yeah, you can never do that. But you go, I'm going to write a song, and when I go back the next day, I'm going to give it to Kenny Rogers, and he's going to record it on his record. And that happened. And
that's exactly what happened. I had 2 days booked with him, and I overheard him tell his producer, we still need a song, and he even described what he wanted this ballad and what he wanted it to sound like and say. And I knew I had a session with him the next day, and I just went, screw it, I'm gonna go for it. And I remember shaking, like literally physically shaking, as I went up to him to tell him that I was a songwriter. And like, for the background singer, for those watching, the career of being a background singer on records doesn't really even exist anymore. But in the heyday, for a background singer to come up to the artist on a session and say, hey man, I'm a songwriter and I've written a song for you, is a good way to get your ass fired. And the chances of him even listening to it. But what do you think? Why do you think he actually said, okay, let's hear it? Why do you think he did that? Because I know that if I'm doing something and somebody comes up and says, hey, I wrote a nice instrumental for you, all I say is, great. I take the thing and I hand it to somebody else and say, make sure that you would testify that I never listened to it. Yes. And even then, that was a danger, Yeah. The answer, Kenny, I think is twofold. One, I think that there was an earnestness, for lack of a better word, about me. Yeah. That wasn't too pushy. Yeah. And that I was 19 years old. And I think that Kenny Rogers liked my singing because he was using me on his record. And he probably just thought, in that moment, now, had it been the next day and he was in a different mood, maybe it would have completely been different. Yeah, but there was also, again, graciousness. Yeah. And he kind of went, you got 4 minutes to impress me. And there was no demo. I had to sit and play it for him on the piano and sing it. So my hands were shaking and I was sweating. And he liked it. And, what I write about in the book that you'll also understand because you've been around a long time and you know how sometimes things work. He changed one word. I should say he added one word. I'll tell you exactly what he did. And you hated that, right? Or you did not hate that? No, I played the whole song for him. And he said he really liked it. And he said, can you play it again? And so I played it again. And at the end, I had added this sort of post-chorus line of music and lyric that went, You are the dream that finally came true. And then I finished the song. So Kenny says, I really like that, but is there any way you could say you are the dream that finally came true for me? And I went, true for me. As simple as that. And he asked for half the song.
You gave it to him gladly, didn't you?
And I freaking gave it to him gladly.
That's right. That's right.
Because what people don't understand is, back then I was only 19, but I was business savvy enough to know that 100% of nothing is nothing.
That's right.
And I would rather split that song with him and get him to record it and have him have, skin in the game, if you will.
Yeah.
And it was also sort of cool for this 19-year-old kid to be a co-writer with Kenny freaking Rogers.
I mean, that gives you a lot of clout. I mean, that's pretty great. But I can imagine that having heard your voice, because you have such a beautiful voice.
Thanks.
So if that guy with the beautiful voice says, I've written a song, you got to think that guy is going to write something great because he knows so much, I would think, because you're already an accomplished singer. But,
yes.
But that reminds me of when I was asked to play with Liberace and Liberace's orchestra. They said, look, you've got to play the saxes. Okay, I got that. But there's an oboe solo. You play oboe, don't you? And I went, of course I do. I had never touched an oboe.
But you had a sense that you could figure it out, right?
I went and took lessons because the gig was like 3 or 4 days later, and I learned enough to play oboe for the gig, and it was fine. Just like, just take balls. You just got to do it.
It takes balls, and you got to just be like, yes. It's like, I hear actors sometimes say they're close to getting a part, and the director says, yeah, we really like you for this. You ride horses, right? And you're like, yeah, I totally ride horses. I've been riding horses since I was a kid, and they've never even seen a horse.
Exactly.
You got to fake it till you make it.
That's right. That's right. So
I do think one thing I want to point out though, yes, that all transpired, and I appreciate you saying that. And yeah, maybe it was that with Kenny. Maybe he was like, the kids can sing, so why not, give them a chance. But at the time, Kenny Rogers had every major songwriter handing him songs all day long. He didn't need this, right?
Yeah.
I really think, Kenny, that, and this is the thread throughout my book, I really think that a big part of it all was my thinking, was that I made those things happen. I really truly believe that that whole adage of, if you're a person that says, well, that's never going to happen, it's never going to happen. But if you are a person that thinks, yeah, I'm going to do this session with Kenny Rogers, and I'm going to write this song and he's going to cut it. And I really believed it. And I've had so many things in that, like that happen in my career and in my life, that to me, it's been proven to me over and over and over again. So I think that choosing your thoughts wisely is a big factor in it too.
When it doesn't work out, are you discouraged, or is it just like a bump in the road to you?
It's just a bump in the road to me.
Good.
There have been, certainly there have been some disappointments, but I've really not. I try to have a really good perspective. Like I remember when, and I know that you can relate to this. I've been nominated for a Grammy several times, and I've only won one.
You've only won one?
Yeah.
Wow.
And it wasn't even it was an amazing, because it was Song of the Year, but it was Dance with My Father that I wrote with Luther Vandross.
That's the only Grammy you've won?
Yes. And there have been I was so, and am so proud of that accomplishment, and that I got to share it with him. But there have been times when I was nominated, and no disrespect to the people who were nominated or the person who won, but I was really disappointed a couple of times that I didn't win that particular award that I was nominated for a day. And then I'm like, look how blessed I am. I can't think about that. I have to just onward,
How many Grammys have you been nominated for? Do you know?
I think 6. How many you've won? Like a million.
Well, I've been nominated for 19 Grammys, and if you add the number of Grammys that you and I have won, we've got 2 Grammys.
You're kidding me.
I'm not kidding.
You only have 1 Grammy?
I've won 1 Grammy, yeah.
But you've been nominated 19 times?
I think around 19, yeah. 17, 18, 19, yeah. So I've gotten very used to losing Very good at
But
it.
you can relate, right? Because I'm sure some of those losses you took in stride better than others. Like I'm sure that there were times when you thought, this is the best work I've done thus far, and this is going to win, and then it doesn't win, and there's a period of time you can't not be disappointed.
No, I think that sometimes people don't get Grammys because if your music is too popular, the,
Yeah,
the people, I mean, it's supposed to be a clear vote. Who knows exactly? There's all this talk about it, but
very
sometimes
political.
they don't want you to win a Grammy if you are selling the most records. That's
Right,
just sometimes the way it goes. And so I
right,
thought, would I rather have the Grammy or would I rather just kind of have the career I've got? And of course, there's no question what the right answer is.
right.
Yeah.
Speaking of, good segue, by the way. There's a chapter in my book.
Oh, good. Well, you're just doing the segue. Good segue.
Well, it just I wouldn't have thought of it had you not led us here. And I don't want to again, I don't want to give too much of it away, but my first album came out in 1987. Um, and I was very blessed. It did really, really well. It was a really sort of powerful entry into the charts and success. And we had four top three singles from it, one including one number one pop single, "Hold On to the Night," which was the last single released from the album, and it was triple platinum or something like that. And I remember when the Grammy nominations were getting ready to be announced, I was hoping I would get nominated for something. Obviously, it'd be really cool. But everybody around me in my camp was like, "Best New Artist." It's like there's no question. There's no way you're not going to win Best New Artist. And I didn't get nominated for Best New Artist.
Who won that year?
Jody Watley, but I didn't even get nominated. You know why?
I don't know why.
You have to read my book.
Well, I didn't. I must have skipped that. I did read the book. Yes.
I will tell you this. I'll tell you this because the book is out, and this is not a big giveaway, but it's interesting. As a working session singer, a year and a half or 2 years before I got a record deal, as a just as a freelance background singer, I got hired to sing a demo
So you weren't a new artist.
on a soundtrack that was released on Arista Records by your friend Clive Davis,
Yeah.
who you have had great success with.
Yeah.
The soundtrack album, went triple plywood. No one bought it. No one knew it. There were no hits from it. My track was just buried in this soundtrack album, right? Apparently, I was about to be nominated, and Clive got wind of it. And a similar thing had happened with Whitney Houston 2 years before, where she had sung some obscure song and they disqualified her for Best New Artist. And Clive went to the Grammy, to NARAS, the Grammy organization, and said, if you're going to penalize Whitney Houston, you got to penalize Richard Marx because he sang on a soundtrack on my label. He's not a new artist, and
Oh,
they had to adhere to it. Now, in retrospect, what everybody realized was that doing that to Whitney was bullshit, and doing that to me was bullshit.
yeah.
And they have since, of course, since then changed the rules. So it has to be a significant, you have to have been on the charts. You've had to have like be known as an artist to be disqualified for Best New Artist.
Do you hold grudges?
You know me better than anybody. I've never met a grudge I wouldn't hold.
I'm handing that to you on a silver platter. Of course, I know. I know what you do, so I'm asking. So,
I've tried as I've gotten older to do that less.
yeah. So how are
Um,
you with Clive? You see Clive around at different things.
oh yeah. Actually, I didn't hold that against Clive even then. I think he was just he was holding a grudge, and I just sort of I was the collateral damage of it.
Yeah, that's too bad.
Um,
I'm disappointed that Clive did that because yeah, once it was bad for Whitney, but why then? If you know how bad it was for Whitney, why then put it on somebody else when you
I
know it's
agree.
bad?
I don't know that I would have done that either, but I didn't hold it against him, and I did get nominated for Best Rock Vocal that year,
Oh,
which I lost. But I don't look back on that one with any kind of grudge. But generally, yes, that's something I've been working on my entire life is to let things go, or at least if you recognize that someone has wronged you consistently, or you realize I don't want the energy of this person in my life,
Yeah.
You can remove them from your life without it being a scene or a grudge. You just kind of disappear from, you just ghost them. It doesn't have to be a confrontation, and it doesn't have to be, you know, I think you and I have both worked on that. We've had many conversations about, people who we feel have wronged us.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons we're pals, is because we're very like-minded in all good ways and bad ways.
Well, there seems to be for you and I a respectful way to handle yourself. Okay, you're a great artist. I work hard at what I do, so we're artists. But then we still are people. So how do you handle people? How do you interact with people? And when other people don't treat us like kindly,
Yeah.
it seems pretty obvious that that's a dick move, right?
Yeah, I
And
agree.
I don't, I don't do those kind of things, and you don't do those kind of things.
No. I honestly can say, and I challenge anybody to prove me wrong. If you can show me an example of where I have screwed somebody over or wronged them, uh, let me hear about it,
Yeah.
because I try to be, sometimes I have to give people bad news, and sometimes I have to let people go from employment, or, but I try really hard to be respectful of people, and and try to be elegant and gracious as I go through, based upon what I've learned from people like Lionel Richie, and you, and luckily there are people in my life I look at and I go, they're gracious people, and those were always good influences.
Well, okay. So I'm not saying this to be mean. Okay, so you're not as young as you used to be. You're still younger than me, but not as young as you used to be. So the question I have for you is, at this time, you know how to write songs, you know how to tour, and you've got all that stuff down. You got a great, social life. You've got a great family life. Writing a book is a lot of work, right? At,
Yeah.
at your age, now I'm not saying you're old, but at your age, why would you want to do all of that? Because that seems like a lot of work.
It turned into more work than I realized.
Because you
I
wrote it
actually
yourself. You wrote this book. You didn't have a ghostwriter, right? You
No,
wrote
I
that.
had no help. I had no help writing the book.
It's a lot of work. Was that take a couple years? How long did that take you to do?
I mean, off and on, it took 7 years or
Oh,
something. But the first 5 years or 5.5 years of it, I wasn't writing a book. I was just jotting down the backstories of my songs,
mm-hmm.
if there were interesting stories behind them. I was not writing about my life. I mean, of course, my life, mixes into those stories, but it was less memoir-y. That's a word,
Yeah.
said the writer who just put out a book, and more like the life story of my famous songs.
Hmm.
And there's some funny shit that's happened to me along the way, like a lot of funny stories. Like when you and I get together, we tell each other stories of stuff that's happened to us.
Yeah.
And you're a great storyteller, and you and I. That's another thing we have in common. We love to tell people fun stories of things that happen. And I started telling those stories in my show, in my live show, especially in my solo acoustic show, my one-man show, because those shows that I started doing, 8 years ago, whatever. To me, the show is what happens in between the songs, because I'm very confident. I feel good about my voice and my performance of these songs and the selection of the songs. But to me, if I go to see somebody play, I want to feel like I know them or I'm hanging out with them, and it should be fun. And so I try to make my shows as if we were sitting having a cocktail, and I go, "Oh God, I got a funny story to tell you about this song," and then I'll do the song. That's what I do on stage every night. And I realized somewhere along the way that each of these stories I was telling in between the songs was a chapter of a book.
Hmm.
But I didn't get serious about it, to be honest with you, until I got a book deal, which only happened like a year and a half ago.
So
So
you.
Simon and Schuster, bless them, show up and they really like what I've written. And then I had an editor named Sean Manning from Simon and Schuster, who was a great young guy,
Yeah.
and he encouraged me to make it more of a memoir and to write more about myself. The answer to your question, though, is I felt like I was a little too, I am not as young as I used to be, but I still feel like I'm a little too young to write a book like this.
Yeah.
But it just happened the way at the time that it happened. And two, the more I started to work on it, and I believe that you will write a book one day. I absolutely believe you will. And I think you'll have the similar experience, which is that the deeper you get into it, the more addicting it becomes and addictive it is. And I went from years of just like once in a while, like, okay, that's a good story. I'm going to work on that in my hotel room after a show, whatever. Well, the year before the book came out, I actually would, every few mornings, I would dedicate that whole first half of the day. Wake up, have my coffee, and sit and write and work on the book. And only when the book came out last week did I remember like 7 stories that would have been so good to put in the book, and I just forgot about it until now. So
There's always another part to it.
I mean, you never know. Maybe there's more stories to tell.
Yeah. Oh yeah, stories to tell. Well, it's in there.
It's just a blank screen now.
So okay, so your main instrument's guitar, correct? Not piano. Or is piano your main? I've never know, I've never asked you that. I just assume it's guitar, but I don't know if I'm right.
I'm even hesitating to answer you because I was a piano player, and then I started playing guitar really to facilitate not having to have 2 guitar players in my band.
Mm.
And I love playing guitar. I prefer to play guitar actually. I don't consider myself like you are such a brilliant musician, and your proficiency and your command of the saxophone and of all saxophones and other, like you're a mofo badass technician at your instrument. And I don't say that because we're pals, but anybody who knows you, whether they are like fans or whether they buy your records or not, anybody's going to go, well, yeah, I mean, Kenny G is like, he's a brilliant musician.
Thank you.
I am not.
Thank
I
you.
am a singer first. I should say I'm a songwriter first, a singer second, and a musician third.
Yeah.
But I like the way I play my songs.
Yeah.
You don't want to say, hey, we should get up and jam with the. I don't really do that.
Yeah.
But the answer is, I do play guitar more than I play piano. But I really love in my one man show to be able to go back and forth. It's really nice. I think it also breaks up the show and it's more entertaining for the audience and for me. I mean, just certain songs lend themselves to piano and certain songs lend them to guitar. Do you play any other instruments? You play
Well,
piano a little bit, right?
I mean, on the songs that I've recorded and put out that most people have heard, that's me playing the keyboards, but only because we have sequencers and
Right.
computers that when you play the part and you make a mistake, you then go to the computer screen and you slide the D and you make it into a B flat, and all of a sudden I sound like I'm playing it correctly.
Right. But have you ever played piano or keyboards on stage?
No, not a chance. No.
Have you ever thought about, because this would blow your fans' minds, what if you, like, pick a song, whether it's Songbird or one of your bigger songs, and you go to the piano or a keyboard and you play an intro that is or isn't the actual intro to the song, but you just go over to the keyboard and you play something, and then you pick up your sax, and then the song starts. People would lose their minds because it'd be like, holy shit. If I were in the audience, I would just be annoyed because it'd be like, oh, of course he plays keyboards too. What a dick. But I'm a
That's
jealous person.
that does not sound fun to me. I can almost picture it, and I can almost picture it being a lot of work for not a lot of reward.
I always think that coming off as kind of a badass is always a good reward.
Yeah, well, but you know what? I playing all those notes is badass enough for me.
True,
That's
true.
what I think.
This is true.
Yeah. So let me ask you another question. So I already know half these answers because I know you so
Yes.
well. But you're a very private person.
Yeah.
You don't usually share. So was this book hard for you to do to share these stories? Because I get when I read it, I get the stories about the in the studio with Lionel Richie. That stuff's easy to talk about because it's all just kind of it's not super deep and super personal. But there's some stuff in there about your dad, about your relationships. I was just a little surprised that you shared that, and I'm wondering if did it feel good? Did you learn more about yourself? Was it therapeutic for you?
That's a good question. It was. it was a little therapeutic to write about my dad, losing my dad. Um, we had an extraordinary relationship. It was a very difficult. It was a little difficult to write about. It's been, since 1997. But I felt like it was a really important. It was an important chapter in my life. It was the worst of times.
Yeah.
When I was doing the audiobook, you know, I wrote that chapter about my dad a year and a half ago, or a year into the thing, and then I had to do the audiobook, and I'd forgotten. And as I was reading that chapter, it was the only time reading the book that I had to get up and take a walk, and I cried a couple of times, like reading the words that I'd written about that period
Yeah.
caught me by surprise.
Wow.
Um, there was even a there's even a part where the guy was helping produce the audiobook said, "I hope you will agree to leave this in, but I want you to listen back to because your voice cracks and if you want to redo that, I totally understand." And it's not like I don't think you can tell that I'm starting to lose it, but I left it because it was honest and it was
Yeah.
like I still really miss my dad.
Wow.
And so that was a little difficult. Writing about my relationships, that's a good question, Kenny, and especially coming from you because you do know me and you know me as a very private
I
person.
know all
I,
about your relationships
you
too. Yeah.
do, and I've never been in the tabloids, and I've never talked about my. I didn't talk about my first marriage to Cynthia, which was a 29-year relationship, which I consider a damn successful relationship. Um, the fact that it didn't last forever to me doesn't make it an unsuccessful marriage.
Yeah.
I still have hold her in the highest regard. She's an incredible mom to our boys. And so the answer was and I knew that I had to address it in some way. And I wanted to address finding love again, at 50 years old, which is a really important it's the most important part of my life right now.
Yeah.
Um, I approached writing those chapters and writing that material in a way that I felt protected the integrity of my privacy.
Ah, good for you. Good for you.
I thought, what would I be willing to say to someone who I don't really know? But if I meet someone or at a dinner party or and somebody asks me, "Have you been married before?" And what am I willing to talk about? And that's kind of what I wrote about.
Yeah.
It was
Well,
still more than anybody has ever known about me,
yeah.
but it doesn't talk. I don't violate the integrity of my privacy.
I like
I
that.
also, I don't know about you, and I don't mean to be sexist if I am being this way about it, but when people write books and they talk about who they've slept with and relationships they've had and they name names, especially men, I find it to be the most inelegant, classless, creepy thing. I just think it's lame.
I could not agree more.
Yeah.
Could not agree more. It's a big. It's like, oh yeah, you need to say those things to make yourself feel,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
successful or whatever. It's like I don't. I just have to play my saxophone well. That's all I need to do. You just have to do your songs, sing
Yeah.
well. You don't need to brag about any other things.
No. No. Or tell or answer questions just because you're in the public eye. And if you have fans,
Yeah.
look, a lot of my fans were with me from the beginning, so they were fans of Cynthia, my ex-wife.
Yeah.
She was an actress. They liked us together, but at no point have I ever seen a couple who I think, oh, I really like that couple together. They seem cool. And then if they break up, I don't sit around and wonder what happened or want to know it's none of my business. It's between them.
Yeah. I do wonder when I read about those things. I
Do
wonder,
you?
but I don't like I don't go farther than that. I don't like try to figure it out. But I do wonder just because maybe it can help me with my relationship. Like what happened? Like
Oh, I
why
see what you're saying.
oh, yeah,
I guess what I mean is I don't make assumptions based
yeah,
upon
that's right. Yeah. Yeah.
ignorance. You know,
Yeah, yeah, right.
um, I'm putting my glasses because as great a time as I'm having answering your great questions, we have questions from
I
people
was
who are
just about
joining us.
I was just about to ask you. I know you're in Switzerland, but the cool thing is that I know what you're there doing, and you're
Yeah,
just hanging out and jamming and singing and doing all sorts of things with all sorts of really cool people. So I mean, that's probably been part of your life, your whole life, is you going somewhere and like, hey Lionel, and then singing a song. Well, hey Luther, then singing a song, and doing all that stuff. And I was just thinking before we were on, I was thinking if I'd like to see your Rolodex, because because people that sometimes people ask me, can I see some of the names in your on your phone? I say, well, I'll show you, but I'm not going to give you the numbers. And then when I look, it's like I can't believe that I can text like right now if I want to, I can text Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
I can text Harrison Ford. Why on
He's not going to text you back, but
earth? He won't. No,
and he's going to block your number, but still.
he may do that, but no. It's like I think, okay, why? How did I get here that I can do that? So I was thinking about you. You've got to have names in there where you. I'm thinking, do you ever look and go, I'm Richard Marx. I'm talking like, how am I able to look right here and I can make a phone call and chit chat with whoever? Isn't that?
Yeah,
Think like that?
of course. The thing is, and maybe this is the same for you, when you become friendly with people who you have admired, or whether you even particularly admire them, or like just big celebrities who you end up meeting and liking and becoming friendly with, um, and there's a point for me where they just become people, and
Yeah.
I sometimes forget. And the two examples that come to mind are Barbara Streisand,
Okay.
who's legendary, and you know her as well.
I do.
But when I get a you know a, an email from her, she doesn't text, she emails, you know, saying, "Hey, do you want to come for dinner?" or "Hey," or just some question or something back and forth. I'll answer her, and then there will be times when I'll look and I'll go, "This was just emailing with Barbara Streisand," you know. But the other one is I met about in 2005 or 2006. I had this incredible tour with Ringo Starr.
Wow.
I toured and played in his band, and he does this thing. He's done this thing for years, where it's called the Ringo and the All Stars, and it's artists who come together to form a band to back him up. So we do Ringo songs, we do Beatles songs, and I did this tour with him, and we became pals ever since. And we've written songs together that he's recorded, and we've spent a lot of social time together. And I adore him. He just had a birthday, July 7th, and he calls and leaves me voicemails. And that's the only person I will, every once in a while, if it's somebody I trust, I'll go, "You want to hear something cool?" And he'll go,
Wow.
"Hi." You hear him go, "Hi, Rich, it's Rich," because his name is Richard Starkey.
Oh, that's his name. Oh, okay.
And his friends call him Rich. I still call him Ringo, even though he's my friend. I just call him Ringo. But a lot of his friends call him Rich, and he calls me Rich. So he always starts with, "Hi, Rich, it's Rich." And he's got that Ringo voice, and it's so, it's
Wow.
legendary. And he's
That's
always funny. He always has something funny. And so, yeah, sometimes I'm like, one of the Beatles leaves me voicemails.
that's cool. Okay. Last question before we go to your audience.
Yeah.
One person, the biggest superstar that you know, that's the nicest, like that you could say this person is one of the nicest people on the planet. Somebody that
Hugh Jackman.
huge. Oh wow. Okay.
Hugh Jackman is the nicest superstar you'll ever meet in your life.
Good for you. Good for
Yeah.
you. And
Daisy just yelled, "Kenny G." Here's the
no,
thing. Kenny
I'm
G is one of my best friends, but I wouldn't say, would you say that I'm one of the nicest people you've ever met?
no.
No.
So, do you see how fast I said that?
Yes, because we're honest with each other. Doesn't mean I don't adore you, but I like your. I mean, you've never been anything but super nice to me.
Yeah,
But I've seen you you get pissed off.
I do.
I've never seen Hugh Jackman get pissed off.
I
He's
met him once, and I can tell you, he was amazing, such a nice guy. But my guy is Michael Douglas.
oh, that's so good to hear.
Yeah, he is the nicest, greatest.
Oh my God, I
Oh,
love hearing that because I love him.
yeah, I love him too. So there you go. Okay.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. I actually answered one of the questions. I realized somebody asked me about the Ringo tour. Um, let's see. Here's a good question for both of us. What career path? This is from Amy in Pittsburgh.
Hmm.
What career path would you choose if you weren't a musician, and who were your earliest musical influences? I'll go first on this one.
Yeah, you go first.
Career path. I think I would have been good at working in a newsroom. Not like I would have been the news director. I would have worked my way up and I would have, or the editor of a newspaper, or there's something about being in that, at least from what I gather from watching TV and TV shows about it and knowing some people, journalists and stuff, the pace of it, the action of it,
Wow.
in real time when stories are breaking. I think I would have really loved doing that. Not as much as what I do, but and my earliest influences were Sam Cooke, Earth, Wind and Fire,
Hmm.
Paul Simon, Elton John, Billy Joel, those guys. You?
I would have been a professional golfer. Well, I would have tried. I would have tried.
I mean, you could be now. You're a
No,
scratch
no,
golfer.
no. I mean,
Oh my.
I'm almost a scratch player, but compared to the pros, I mean, I'm a hack. But I
And
was
would you say that your passion for golf rivals your passion for music?
well, when I'm home, I would say yes. But like I'm on the road right now, I'm in Seattle. I'm doing some shows. I'm not even thinking about golf. But when I get back home, I just think I think I practice in the morning. I do my three
Yeah,
hours in the morning, and then I try to go to the golf course and try to work on my game because for me it's the same as a musical instrument. One guy, one instrument.
yeah,
You practice hard, you get great, then the world will open its arms to you if you're great. There's nothing
yeah,
stopping you. Like if you win a golf tournament, the world can't go, well, we don't like you because we don't like your personality or we don't like the way you look. It's like, wait a minute, I won. That means that I won.
right.
So
You
you
don't have
keep
to like me. You just have to give me the trophy.
yeah, that's right. So that's it. And as far as musical influences, I am older than you. So before we had no computers, we had no way of doing anything except if you found a record somewhere and
Hmm.
somebody played me a record of Grover Washington Jr. and this sax player named Michael Brecker. And when I heard those
Oh,
guys, I thought, wow, that's what a saxophone can sound like. Man, I'm going to practice because mine doesn't sound like that now, but I want it to sound like that. And so that was
yeah.
my motivation.
Grover was amazing, but I got to see the Brecker brothers once when I
Wow,
was a
come on.
kid. My parents took me to a jazz club when I was like 12, and I saw the Brecker brothers, and I'll never forget it.
I mean, Michael Brecker was one of the most amazing tenor sax players in the history of music.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
Um, this is from Ed in Grand Prairie, Texas. Is there anything that you would change in regards to your music career, and what would that be?
Wow.
Ed, the first thing I would change
It's your name.
is I would have, what?
No, no, I'm just kidding.
What'd you say?
I said your name.
Yeah. I would have celebrated my successes more.
Hmm.
When I was having my heyday on the charts and I could do no wrong for like 9, 10 years, where everything I put out, every album was platinum, multiple hit songs, number one singles.
Hmm.
When I met Daisy and we started hanging out and getting to know each other, one of the questions she asked me one night on the phone, I was on the road somewhere, and we were having a late night call, and she said, how did you used to celebrate your successes? Like when you'd have a number one song or a number one album. I went, what do you mean? She said, well, what did you do to celebrate those victories? And I said, I didn't do anything. She was, did you have a party? Did you have a dinner? I was like, no, I just did another gig. And I was focused on next.
Hmm.
And I was so driven that I never would. I mean, I was grateful that a song would go to number one. And I'd have this, looking back, it was almost like a momentary rush. My next thought was, how do we stay at number one? And I was
Hmm.
that guy. And I never celebrated my successes. And she has taught me in the last 8 years of being together how to celebrate everything and how to celebrate any little thing that's nice that's going on. That's what I would have changed
Well,
in my
that's really because Daisy likes to drink, and so she just wants to.
career. And now so do I. What about you?
Honestly, when you started talking, you just read my mind. It was exactly the same way. I never thought about it except, okay, how do we keep this going? What do I do next to keep it all going? I never celebrated once, never
No.
did, and
I mean,
I agree.
am I wrong? Do you still hold you have the biggest selling instrumental album of all time, don't you?
Of course.
Of course.
Of course.
Okay, but do you now, can you look at that, all jokes aside, do you ever even internally celebrate that and go,
Yeah.
fucking hey man, I have the biggest selling instrumental album of all time.
Yeah. I do. I do now.
Good.
Now I do. I
You
go,
should. Can
I,
I,
yeah.
and we have witnesses, can we have, the next time we go out, can we make it a dinner celebrating that?
Wow.
Let's do that.
Let's do that.
And let's do it at our house and let's play the album.
Wow. Well,
Or there's probably two of them, or three of
well,
them.
there's many of them that are, well, yeah, but the big one was my album Breathless, and I got to go to the very first award where they give a Diamond Award,
10 million.
10 million. So the very inaugural Diamond Award celebration, Kenny Rogers was there, Billy Joel was there, MC Hammer was there, Boston was there,
Def Leppard?
Def Leppard was there.
Yeah.
I was there, and you had all the top, Clive Davis, um, all the different heads of the studios. It was a big deal, and I looked around and I thought, wow, this is the coolest thing to be in this company of this, and Elton John. And that's
Yeah.
when I stood behind Elton John. No, I knew that I wanted to be in the right place in the picture, so I stood between Elton John and Billy Joel.
Oh,
And
wow.
so I have a picture of that where my little head is like right there, and I'm thinking.
Oh,
I remember what I
man.
was thinking was, make sure your face is there, because otherwise no one's going to believe that you were there.
Dude, let's do that. That would be really fun.
Yeah.
Um, Angie from Savannah, Georgia. Hi, Richard. I am a loyal Kenny G fan, 34 of my 50 years now, but I just recently learned of your long-term friendship with him. I remember first hearing and enjoying your music in high school too. How awesome that you've written a book. She's working on one herself. Congrats. Her question is, what kinds of unexpected things have you faced in the music industry, namely things that no one could have prepared you for?
Hmm.
I'll tell you what you can't be prepared for. Huge success and then the lack of it.
Hmm.
You can't be prepared for really either one. There's no handbook that teaches you how to gracefully become famous overnight.
Mm-hmm.
And there's certainly no handbook that prepares you for when, as I refer to it as, it's not your turn anymore.
Hmm.
You know, like when it comes to, I'm still so grateful that I tour like you do. We're on the road all the time. We have a really great fan base who comes and supports us. They buy our records when we put them out, but we're not killing it on the charts anymore.
No.
And I look at it like for 10 years, it was my turn.
Yeah.
I enjoyed my turn. And then it was somebody else's turn, and it's been other people's turn. It's not my turn anymore.
That's
And I
what.
think that I handled that fairly well. I mean, and I immediately sort of launched into more writing and producing for other people because I wanted to stay, as I used to say, and I still say, it's okay if I'm not in the starting lineup. Just don't take away my jersey. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
Like I just don't want to be pushed aside
Yeah.
completely. And so I've really felt like when I stopped having hit songs on the radio, on pop radio,
Hmm.
I decided to sort of retreat and attack in a new direction, which was writing and producing for all these up and coming younger artists and some of my heroes. And that has really sustained my career a lot. And it's now in my show, in my concert, I now do songs that are big hit songs that I didn't sing, but I wrote and
Wow, good
produced.
for you.
And
Yeah,
so that's really an important component in my career.
good for you.
But that's something that I don't think you can really be prepared for.
Yeah, it's. I mean, when you said overnight success, but it really wasn't, because years and years and years of songwriting and background singing and all this stuff, and then yes, you do your album, and it was platinum right off the bat, but it wasn't like you weren't already on a route to that. So I wouldn't call that an overnight success, in my opinion.
I only refer to it that way because, yes, that's everything you said is true. But I remember the day MTV played Don't Mean Nothing, my first single, the video,
Yeah.
on a Monday. And the next day, I was in a shopping center and people were following me around and asking me for my autograph. And I was like, everything changed. And it was literally overnight. It was MTV changed everything for me.
had you already played a bunch of gigs that by then, or you? No, no. So then it is overnight for you. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, I see that.
yeah.
Mine wasn't like that because I had played gigs since the late
Right. You played in Jeff
'60s.
Lorber's band, and yeah, you had.
Yeah, gig after gig, night after night, and by the time my album went, I had my first platinum album was like 1986, my album Duotone. So I had already been playing since like 7 or 8 years on the road, gig after gig after gig,
Just ramping it up.
ramping it up. And so when the album sold more than the other ones, it was like, okay, I'm still doing the same thing, but I'm playing for a lot more people. That's all. So
Yeah,
it didn't seem like an overnight success. It just seemed like, oh, business is better now.
yeah,
This is good.
yeah. So
Yeah.
what do you think is something in your career that you couldn't have prepared for?
Um, Not really. Just I don't have the same look as you. No, I can't think of anything. I think
Okay.
it's yeah. I mean, just maybe you go to different countries and crazy things happen. I mean,
Yeah.
I read in your book you've got a whole chapter about your first trip to Asia, or not necessarily Asia, but you go to Japan, and then from Japan you go to other countries, go to Malaysia, you go to Taiwan,
Yeah.
and a lot of different things happen. So maybe you can't be prepared for that. I mean, I
Oh, no,
remember
no,
when
no.
I went to Singapore the first time, they said, "Oh, you have to get a haircut." I
Oh.
said, "What? Wait, what? What? Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. You can't have long hair in Singapore and play the gig." I said, "Well, I'm going home then.
I'm not gonna cut my hair for you.
Nobody touches these curls. This is the whole career right here. Are you kidding me?"
This is my look, man.
I can't.
Wow,
And
that's you certainly can't be prepared for that. Yeah, and there's lots of stuff that happens on tour, especially with just
yeah,
craziness that happened to me that I write about. But you and I've shared some stories of stuff that's like crazy. So I
I'm
think
gonna, yeah,
we're wrapping it up now, aren't we?
I don't know. I was just going to say, well, I want to tell people that are watching a couple quick things. One is a lot of interest. Yeah, there, he's holding it up. So I don't have to go find it on my phone, even though it's right here.
There it is.
It's my new, whatever you call
Screensaver.
it, screensaver. No, but the thing is that a lot of what Richard talks about in his book, Ricardo, I call him Ricardo. Um, it's just the stuff that happens on the road. So when I'm reading it, even though it's not my personal story, I can relate to it. It's really great. It gives you an insight on the glamorous and really unglamorous life on the road, tour bus, getting up in the middle of the night, checking into dumb hotels and all that stuff. But I want to also tell you that I've we did a little, but two more things. One is we've never seen each other's shows.
I know, it's so stupid.
Never seen each other's shows because we're always working. When he's out on the road, I'm on the road, and we never. So we made a vow that within the next year we're going to watch each other play. But I will say that we did a little performance about a year ago, just a little fundraiser, and when this boy starts singing, he's got the same great
Oh,
voice that he's
I
always
just
had.
you
His
just
voice is
froze.
fantastic.
Oh no, you were just going back to say something super cool.
Oh, am I frozen? I'm here.
Well, at least it's not the worst face he could get frozen. There, you're back.
Am
You're
I
back.
back?
You said we did this fundraiser and
And when Richard starts to sing, his voice is as beautiful, as clear, and the range. He sounds like he's still in his 20s singing. So I was super impressed because as a sax player, like I blow into the saxophone. It's not like as I get older, all of a sudden I'm not going to be able to get the same tone.
right.
Still, I mean, hopefully that continues. But for singers, you go, all right, he's getting older. He can't hit the notes anymore. But this guy, he's fantastic. So I just wanted to make sure I shared that with everybody when
That's
they.
really nice, buddy. Thank you. And I have the deepest respect for you, and I love you. And thanks for doing this with me. It was so fun. If I'm ever going to stay up till 2 o'clock in the morning in Switzerland, it's going to be to hang out with you.
And you're in a most beautiful place.
Yeah,
You're in. Are you looking? When you look out of your hotel room, do you see? Is that Lake Geneva or
yeah.
Lake
It's just
Lucerne?
no, it's Lake Geneva, and it's just magnificent.
Are you speaking French when you're there? Are you?
Un petit peu, un petit peu.
That's good. Well, I wish you the best with the book. It's great.
Thank you.
I'm going to follow your lead, and I promise you, I'm going to do a book. And I'm thinking maybe the title of my book would be something like Kenny G, I Blew It.
I love you, Kenny G. Thanks to everybody who watched, and I'll send you a link so we can keep. I think people can watch this for a while. if you missed it live.
I hope so.
Thanks again, and I'll see you soon at home.
Okay. Love you too, bro.
See you, man. Thanks to Barnes & Noble. See you guys. See ya.
Another sleepless night I can't explain. Somebody said they heard me call your name. The radio won't let you leave my mind. I know it's over, but I don't know why. Should've known better. Better fall in love with you. Now love is just a faded memory. Should've known better. I'm a prisoner to this pain, and my heart still aches for you. There was no risk that I wouldn't take, and not a promise that I didn't make. All I asked was that you just hold on, and now I'm wondering what I did wrong. Should've known better. Better fall in love with you. Now love is just a faded memory. Should've known better. I'm a prisoner to this pain, and my heart still aches for you. Never believing we might lose control. I took my hands off the wheel. I can't remember if the lies were true. It's been a million years since I touched you. Well, I thought time might help me win this game. Being away from you is driving me insane. Should've known better. I better fall in love with you. But now love is just a faded memory. Should've known better. I'm a prisoner to this pain, and my heart still aches for you. Still just for you.